Hi, friends. It's Beth here with Aging Care Solutions, offering professional and personal family experience and guidance for caregivers, families, and seniors who are all navigating the care journey. Today's topic, as the title on this video suggested, is how to deal with a difficult or angry parent or loved one or family member that you're trying to provide support to, and offering some personal and some professional, gleaning some professional um, history dealing with families on this topic. Um, a couple of the things that I recall and that come to mind right away for me is nobody wants change. And, there was in my professional life of providing home health services and as well as private duty nursing and trying to help families coordinate services and care for their loved one. Many times people did not think that they needed any help. They were like, no, no, I don't want anybody in the house. I don't need anybody to come. You guys can help me. You guys can come and get me to the doctors and prepare all my meals. And, that's very challenging when you are working full time and you have a parent who is living alone. If you still live in the same area, I live several hours away from my parent, and it was it was impossible to do any hands-on care. I would go and visit, but it wasn't often. A couple of times a year, a few times a year. But one of the things that I recall working with various social workers and case managers is trying to find out, what is the roadblock here? What is it that they're worried about? And even when you do express concern and worry about it, sometimes they're really not offering what it is. So sometimes just, not telling them we're going to have to move you, I think it's time for you to get out of this house. It's almost like trying to figure out how you can allow them to make the decision, but in reality, it's you helping to push the process forward. I would ask them what they're most worried about. A lot of times they're worried about money. I don't want to leave the house. All my stuff is here, and that's a big thing for people. When you've lived somewhere 60 years, I've only lived here 8 years, and this house is packed. So I know what I can just imagine what being somewhere, 50 years, 60 years, sometimes more. It's unbelievable. But having to move it's a very daunting task. It's a very overwhelming. And some of the things that you can do as, a child of a parent that you're trying to help downsize or coordinate potentially a move, especially if they've had in a year, they're starting to have more than one hospital stay and potentially a rehab stay before they come home. A lot of times, there was a time when hospitals would send social workers out to do an evaluation of the patient's home and are they able to go home safely. They don't do it anymore. It takes too much manpower and the coordination of services. But if there's a family member that's willing to pick that person up and drop them off at their house with a couple bags of groceries, they'll consider that a safe discharge. But in reality, that person still lives alone. There's still stairs in the home. Their bedroom and master bath might be upstairs. So there is a lot to look at and consider. So many people start living downstairs, sleeping on the couch, or they'll pull, the dining room set out and they'll make a bedroom there. But the reality is, if that person isn't managing themselves well, they risk starting a fire or falling and nobody finding them. So there's just a lot. I think having to move would be a big challenge. But if their demeanor has changed, and if you're noticing that they are becoming more reclusive, they really aren't able to get themselves out unless you are providing transportation to the store or the doctors, then it may be time to consider a move. And you could try to incorporate your outings and drive by a place and say, hey, look, let's go in here. We'll have lunch here. Let's just see what this place is about. And sometimes that's a way, or even just let's go in the building and talk to the manager here and let's just see what this place is about. Because managing a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartment over an entire house, once people see it and they see people their own age in those buildings, a lot of times it kind of opens that door. The other thing is if someone's becoming forgetful, confused, they're missing appointments, they're becoming antisocial, I would, when you're attending those doctor's visits, sit in on those appointments. Ask the doctor certain questions in front of your parent. Just say, I'm, worried about dad. He's had a number of falls. He doesn't tell us when he falls. And we find out later because we see bruising all over him. Or there's just, different scenarios that every family is going to face with different challenges. And having some of these real life things can spell that there's maybe memory impairment starting, or maybe they're not managing their medications properly. Even if you have a daily minder, they could forget, did I take it? Was that day filled today? What day is it? So there's a lot of different things that start to come into play. Dehydration, if they're wearing continence products, many times they are really, excuse me, they are at risk for UTIs, which is huge. And a lot of it, I think, can be mitigated if they're in a place where there's other people, where they've got more eyes on them. They've got neighbors that'll tap on the door. We're going to take a walk. Do you want to walk the halls with us, or do you want to come downstairs? We're going to play cards. Excuse me. I don't have any water here. The other is to ask, excuse me, I'm sorry, is to ask their doctor or even their attorney, can you please draft a very brief note expressing your concern that maybe you've met with my dad recently and you've noticed a change in your, and if you were my parent, I would advise that you consider a safer environment or allowing care to come into the home. A lot of times people don't, nope, nobody's coming in, which I understand. I get that. I worked with a lot of families, hundreds of families over the several years that I was in, almost 10 years in private nursing. But but if someone's going to be in there helping you stay hydrated, taking your medications, preparing meals, helping, keep you safe and clean and doing what you can at your own level, it's either that or they come and live with you, or you find a place for them that they can manage better. But getting that letter sometimes does carry weight. Our parents are of a generation of highly respecting their attorneys or their doctors, and and it carries a lot of weight. It could certainly be the difference between what you say, which may come across as nagging, worry, you know, trying to control them, treating them like a kid, kind of a thing. But the reality is, if they're not safe, it's all going to be on you to do all of it, and also be the one picking up um, and managing them while they're at the hospital or the rehab. So there is a tipping point, and many times I worked for an elder law attorney part time after my twins were born, and they were just in preschool. So I had some time during the day, and I learned a lot there. I was only there for a couple of years, but I enjoyed every bit of it. I got to meet a lot of people at a lot of different facilities, even in their private home, getting their documents prepared. And one of the things I recall him talking to families about that would come in is finding your window. What is your window of opportunity to help your parent make the transfer to a more manageable environment, or even move to assisted living, or move to where you are? And hopefully you're the power of attorney and have their advance directive on file that they've at least allowed you to help them make some of those decisions. If they are not allowing you to be a power of attorney, you cannot ask questions of their doctor. You can't speak with their attorney. You can't really do anything. You can help them, but you're not going to be privy to any personal health information or financial information. And the advance directive is also important too. That is, helping make medical decisions in the event that they're unable to. If they have a stroke or something happens, their wishes should already be in that document, which is very helpful to the family members and the spouse, whoever's surviving. So I would highly recommend working on that. And if they haven't allowed that, is calling that physician or that attorney's office and saying, please convince my dad that this document is really important. And the other thing too is having that leverage over them when they go to the hospital. If they do have another event where they fall and they go to the hospital, there may come a time when you say, I'm not bringing you home this time. We're going to have to find another alternative for your care. And that's really what happens a lot. A lot of times people know it's not a safe discharge. They are not able to safely go home anymore. And that's when, you know, you can talk to the social worker at a rehab, you could talk to the social worker at a hospital, and just ask them, can you please tell my family member that coming home at this time is not advised, that really they should be using their rehab stay to consider assisted living, or at least start looking at other options than, living in a home that isn't suiting their needs anymore. So, and there's a lot of other information. You kind of ask for an evaluation if they are a danger to themselves. I helped a family where the father was a high powered attorney, and he made a lot of decisions and over his career, but he had a drinking problem and he fell down a flight of stairs and broke his back, and he was in a rehab facility for 6 months, 8 months. And when he did go home, all of his utilities had been shut off. He still was not able to manage himself. The house was in complete disrepair. There was a hoarding situation. So there was a lot of different things. And when APS, Adult Protective Services, was called, they can refuse. They can say, no, I don't want you in here. But they have to do a welfare check, and that person can assess that home, that person's demeanor, and determine if they are a danger to themselves. And then they can at least start the ball rolling to have a case manager assigned to that family's, to that patient, to that person, and at least try to get the ball moving in the right direction. So that's my history with it. In my personal family experience, my mother was very resistant. She did not want to move, but she didn't know that she had dementia, and it was worsening. And she lived there almost 2 years past when we first started getting the data on her brain activity and whatnot. But it was obvious that she was having trouble. And I think it was almost easier that she had dementia, that she wasn't somebody who was more of a sound mind, because it probably could have been much worse. But I just made the experience the best that I possibly could, for her. And it was still challenging. There was still a grieving process, and, a real resistance to it. But we got through it, and you will too. You will too. There's always a solution. That's what I used to tell my families when I worked with them. It might not be the first choice for everybody of what has to happen, but change is inevitable no matter what age we're at. And it's just facing it and trying to do it the best way that you possibly can, where everybody feels like they have input. And that's really what I think most people, when they're aging, they don't want to feel like somebody's bulldozing them, making all my decisions for me. Unless you have to, I would let them have a lot of input and steer them towards, I moved my parent close to me. I couldn't travel back and forth. Why would I put her in an assisted living in a dementia unit 6 hours away? It was not going to make sense. And if it was going to be new to her, then it should be new close to me, so that I could oversee the care, make sure that she was getting good care, that she was safe, she was being dealt with properly. And, you really, to me, if you're going to visit that person, they're going to live close to me. It's going to be because, that's just the way that it was. So that's what I have for you today. If you like this content, I plan on growing this channel as much as I can. So your subscriptions to this, as I help grow it and bring more content, guest speakers, just personal experience, as well as my professional experience on various topics. It's going to be key that I have subscribers, so that I can bring you the best content, bring you the best guest speakers, and also monetize my channel so that I can, since I'm retiring, make this a source of revenue in a way. So I appreciate your help. I hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you.